the kid whose name I forgot who came through at Warrington and plays for like Statoil or someone like that. I don't know, but Sean Kenny, that's it. A dummy half runner,
Yeah.
Like Wayne Godwin. That sort of
he's going to pick you up tries close to the line, you'd think, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and he likes going for a try. Yeah, which, as we know, Joey Lussick is the prime. Jumps out and tries to score a try. Probably Andy Ackers is next behind him in Super League in that kind of try scoring stakes, I'd say. So it does seem to fit the model that they've got there. Do you think this has any knock-on effects, Sarah, for Salford? Do you think it's a suggestion that Joey Lussick might be leaving Salford? His contract's up at the end of this year, I think. Anyway, he's obviously been done very well there in the last year and a half.
It would maybe be suggesting that, because you can't imagine Ackers wanting to just come to play off the bench.
Yeah, and then the other side of it is Toronto. Like, what have they got left at hooker?
Well, I was just thinking that. I was trying to...
Well, what are they going to have left when and if play resumes? Like, who have they got that's not injured? Who are they going to... there's an idea floating around that teams can borrow from championship teams if championships teams aren't playing, but there's a major restructure going on at Wolfpack, mainly in A, trying to pay players, and B, trying to get next year's. So I don't know if you've seen the rumours this week of McDermott trying to sign Leeds circa 2017, which I don't know if anybody saw how that went, but it's probably not the best thing to sign.
Well, to be fair, you were closer to Super League that year than Toronto were, so maybe I don't know.
Yeah, but we were closer to getting relegated. Like he's going. The rumor at the moment is Hall, Ward, and who's the other one they wanted? Myler. They're all technical, and it just doesn't seem. Again, the problem that we had at that time was we didn't have a leader. Like Watkins and who was captain at that time? Wasn't
Watkins? Maguire was captain in 2016.
Maguire's captain, but he was out most of the season. And then we had Watkins, and then we sort of had that four captains thing, which never worked.
Yeah.
You've got to think that. So who will be going next year? You've got to think that Wilkins will retire, maybe going to broadcasting because he's never off the radio.
I think Wilkin was penciled to retire this year, didn't he? I mean, the option, I suppose the hooking option in the immediate, August return schedule would have to be Blake Wallace. I can't see any other option now. That is not a great defensive player to have in there for all his abilities for Toronto. But yeah, maybe like you say, McDermott's trying to create or recreate a culture more long term, Dom. That's
but I mean, from Toronto's point of view, if they've been told that, look, promotion relegation's off this season because we're not going to play it properly, then there's no real need to invest in the players for this year. Like, they will do the bare minimum that they can to get through it, and then everything will be positioned for next year. Now, a lot of people are saying that they're signing the players on the salary cap based on the pay cuts. But that doesn't work under the salary cap, doesn't it? It's based on the initial money that they were paid for.
It depends. If this year, yes, but next year it will depend on whether the players actually agree new contracts at a 15% reduction, because then that would be their salary cap value for next year, rather than this year where you're right in saying the salary cap value remains what it was at the start of the year, but players are going to get paid less because clubs aren't getting the same sort of income with I mean, Toronto massively hit. They don't get any they're not going to get any home games, are they, this year, even if the season does resume, let's face it. They're not
going to get any home games, they don't get any central funding.
Yeah.
They're not eligible for any of the 16 million. It's not. But then they do stuff like, you ask players to take a pay cut and then you sign bloody Watkins, and it's like, think of I am a big proponent of Toronto. I think it's a great idea. I think they haven't been given the support from the RFL or Super League, and there hasn't been a plan. And it's just been, we'll take your money. We'll you don't take the central distribution, so all the other teams have been happy not to pay that out and get the extra money, and then whenever they can, they've blamed Toronto. But it's just, you've got to think about optics. You've signed Watkins, and yet you're not paying players. It's just sometimes you just want to slap all the owners' heads. Just like, think, what are you doing?
Yeah, but I think within that, there's been discussions to try and offload players as well, and we don't see that side of it too, potentially. But there's been lots 100%. Of rumours about Ricky Latelli, and it's kind of a straight swap, isn't it, then? Watkins for Latelli, you know, one centre out of the NRL for another centre out of the NRL. But yeah, I do think Andy Ackers will do well under the coaching system that they have in place at Salford. I think he's their sort of hooker, like Sarah sort of suggested. So good luck to him, and see how he gets on, kind of back home, as it were. Someone else who's back home, Dom.
England and Irish Lions Rugby Union Centre, Ben Teo, has returned to rugby league with the Brisbane Broncos. The 33-year-old who played State of Origin for Queensland rejoins a club he played for between 2009 and 2012. Teo changed codes in 2014, having won the Premiership with the South Sydney Rabbitohs, playing 152 NRL games.
None of us three are big watchers of rugby union, are we? So to sort of know how well he got on in rugby union would be difficult for us to say, but clearly he had some level of success to be capped a number of times by England and go on a British and Irish Lions tour. He played in the backs in rugby union, he played in the forward pack in rugby league. The only thing I can think of here is Brisbane needed some experience in that forward pack, because people talk about the baby Broncos, and they've got this really young, excited pack of forwards, but probably that's not ideal. So maybe bringing in an experienced head like Ben Teo, who's been there before, done it all, and got a lot of experience, might be a sensible thing to go. One thing that's up there for question with Ben Teo is, who will he play for if he gets to go around internationally again? He's got plenty of suitors in that regard. We've formerly played for Queensland. He's played for England in rugby union, so he could play for a number of countries. Do we think that it's going to be a good return? Does anyone have any kind of strong opinions either way on Ben Teo?
It's not a player I mean, I'm only just discovering NRL, really, aren't I?
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, that he's been out of the game there as well. So, yeah. England back rower John Bateman will have further surgery to correct a shoulder problem, National Rugby League side Canberra Raiders have confirmed. Bateman, who's 26, had initial surgery in February, ruling him out for the start of the NRL season. No date has been put in place on the ex-Bradford and winger player's return until the additional procedure, but it's hoped he will play again this year. And he's had his additional procedure, he's had his further surgery, has John Bateman now. So yeah, this news is more wrapped up in the intrigue of, will John Bateman play for the Canberra Raiders again, isn't it, rather than will he play when England play again in the World Cup in 2021.
Was he the one that was having contract negotiations, or is that another player?
Yeah, so Bateman's contract has been up for discussion quite widely ever since around the time of the NRL Grand Final. Yeah, you're right, Dom. So that's kind of where the intrigue comes about this. And Wigan fans are particularly intrigued because strong rumours came out last weekend, running through the week as well, that he would be rejoining Wigan Warriors next year, which would be an interesting one. But Sarah, do you think the fact that he's had to have a second surgery on this is a huge issue, or do you think it's more making sure it's right given the way that the season's gone?
It's really difficult to know, isn't it? Because sometimes follow-up surgery means actually this is not going to resolve itself, and it's got the potential of, being career-ending even, which obviously we don't want. But on the other hand, maybe it is just a case that actually they said at some point it would be good to have this further surgery, and given that things have shut down, then they decided to do it. It's really difficult to know, isn't it, without actually knowing more details about it.
Yeah, it seemed to sort of come along quite late into his recovery, it felt like, didn't it, that he'd had this second surgery?
Because we were kind of hoping he would be back soon, and given that clearly isn't going to happen, you do wonder, had he started training again and then they'd found that there was this further problem, or was it a follow-up appointment? There's just too many unknowns, really.
And obviously those unknowns will affect his potential contract value, which has been the big talking point about John Bateman, because he was the best second rower in the NRL competition last year, and he was the best British player on the GB and Ireland tour last year as well, probably, until he got his injury. So do we think that him being injured might actually reduce his value to NRL clubs to a point where we might be more likely to see him back in Super League sooner rather than later? If it's affecting his value there, his value here might not be as reduced by it.
I can't see him coming back anytime soon. He's only 26. I wouldn't say he's even at the peak at the moment. I think it's a good time for clubs to get the surgery over and done with. You don't know how long that break was going to last, so you might as well now get it over and done with. It's still earlier in the season, and then get him back fighting fit, and hopefully get him playing when the games properly matter. Yeah,
the back sort of month or two of the season, and see how he gets on there. And certainly for Canberra fans, we hope he hasn't played his last game for the Canberra Raiders, because he was huge for them last year when they went all the way to the NRL Grand Final. Sarah, what's next?
So Wakefield Trinity have announced that young starlet Harry Bowes has signed his first full-time deal with the club, inking a 3-year contract with the first team. I don't know anything about him.
No.
Is he? I think my car's older than him. I think I was working this out. I was like, it just makes me feel like the fact that John Bateman's 26, and Harry Bowes, he's not old at all. So I think he's. Is he under 16 or something?
He's not. Well, he'll be in the sort of 17-18 range if he's signing a full-time deal. But yeah, good luck to the young kid. I don't even know where he plays, to be honest, on the field. But I think we might see a trend of people putting trust in their youth, and good luck to young Harry.
Yeah.
Oh, we almost certainly will at the moment, based on the contract negotiations and everyone cutting back. We're going to see a much younger game very soon, with people going into the academies.
Yeah, definitely. Somewhere where we can't go into the academies is for head coaches. Give us some coaching news.
Which leads on to Bradford coach Mr. John Keir has signed a 2-year contract extension, keeping them at the club until their next financial crisis at the end of 2022.
You think they're going to
last that long before a financial crisis? Surely.
To be honest, I'm surprised we've not had one at the moment with it, but I think everyone causing the financial crisis has been furloughed. So the 65-year-old arrived at the Bulls at the end of the 2018 campaign and immediately secured the promotion into the Championship from League One.
Yeah, and we all got to see the chintziness of his his front room as well. So.
It's all gone quiet on the Bradford front, hasn't it? It's all gone, we're sharing the stadium, we're not going back anymore. And
do you sort of think part of the reason why it's gone quiet is obviously there's a decline in local newspapers to an extent with the way the economy works these days, and also the team aren't in the local newspapers capture area because they play somewhere else? Those sort of things maybe mean that they will keep, and it's another year removed that they're not in the Super League and that sort of stuff. It's going to go quiet, isn't it?
I mean, you've got to think that they're not getting back into Super League without a big backer coming in. Without somebody with actual money and not just pretending to have money and rinsing the fans for the money that they have. Because I mean, the club doesn't have any assets anymore. There's nothing to raid, so nobody's coming in as a knight in shining armour.
I get what you're saying from that point of view, but to be honest, they've got a cracking coach for kind of that situation, that mentality. I mean, John Kay did a